Hey, What's Up? The podcast is brought to you in partnership with Speak Studios and Speak Boise. Speak Boise is a community-driven studio space where all voices from all walks of life can speak and be heard. You can find them on Instagram and Facebook at Speak Studios, Speak Boise, and at their website, speakstudios.com. Speak Studios, speak and be heard. This podcast is brought to you by Instant Imprints. Promote better with Instant Imprints. Instant Imprints are Boise's visual communications experts and your place for everything you need to promote your business, club, school, or group. As a locally owned business, Instant Imprints specializes in making your organization more visible with custom branded apparel, embroidery, promotional items, print services, and wide format printing for signs, as well as banners and vehicle graphics. Want better ways to get noticed? Visit Instant Imprints at instantimprints.com/Boise or call 208-IMPRINT. That's 208-467-7468.
Hey, this is Bob Saget, and you are listening to Hey, What's Up? The podcast. I did the intro.
I am joined by the legendary Bob Saget. Bob, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's weird they call you legend after you live long enough. They just start calling you legend. They don't do that with complete well-known people, but I'm lucky. Thank you.
Of course. This is a kind of an interesting episode. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be expecting, a laugh a minute, but we are here to talk really about Scleroderma Research. I know your sister passed away from that, and Travis, my producer, and I, we both know Kat Davis, who was in Spokane, that recently passed away.
Who was a beautiful person, and that's how you reached out to me on Twitter, and it just felt my heart was really sad for her family, and she was lovely. It's just really, I lost my sister in 1994 and then made a TV movie about it because I didn't know what to do to get people to even know what scleroderma was. So I did that 2 years later. And then I was doing hosting for the Scleroderma Research Foundation benefits and done it for over 30 years. And since then, we've raised over $50 million for research. And that's why it's the Scleroderma Research Foundation. But Kat was someone that, they're making progress and helping patients, but we're still losing people. So it's a rough disease that many people don't know about. But then all of a sudden they meet someone that might be diagnosed with it.
It's one that I really had no clue what it was. And Travis, our producer, didn't know much about it either. I mean, it's still less than, 200,000 or so cases a year. It's not something that's as well known as a Parkinson's or an ALS.
It is as prevalent, they say, and we don't know because everybody, especially these days, makes up all their facts and their numbers. Nothing seems real, but it's hundreds of thousands of people in the world that have it in different areas more so than others. It affects people of African descent probably stronger, similar to how COVID does. It accelerates more and it's more difficult to fight, we have found, and mostly women in their childbearing years in the prime of their lives. So they're saying, when I went to Washington once with the founder, Sharon Monsky, they told me, and I met a lot of scientists, including Tony Fauci and all the people at the NIH, that cystic fibrosis, muscular dystrophy, these are diseases that have the same numbers as scleroderma. So It's not as much of an orphan disease. We just don't hear about it. And that's why I've spent my life and will spend my life trying to help people affected so we don't lose people like Kat or like my sister. Her name was Gay. And I was looking on on TikTok, and somebody made a comment and made fun of my sister's name, because they're 14. And it's like, no, that's what people called people then. It's kind of like joy. That's what it meant. And It still is. No matter how you interpret it, it can be looked at as a very positive word. But people can be, I don't know how you say mean stuff about someone's dead sister's name, but people, we got to be positive and somehow spread a positive message, because that's what's missing right now.
Mm-hmm. And so the thing that people don't realize with scleroderma is a lot of times people don't realize that they're sick just by looking at them, because it's a disease that kind of goes from the inside out, correct? From what Kat told me?
Well, it's different for everybody. There is a diffuse and there's systemic. And diffuse means you can have Raynaud's arthritis, where your fingertips, your extremities, your toes, they turn purple. They don't have the blood circulation. You need to keep them warm, mittens, socks. And people can live a long life with that. It's Raynaud's arthritis. And then in my sister's case, hers was like unbelievably fast progression. It was about 3 years, and she had systemic scleroderma, and it eventually does things to the people that get afflicted the worst, like our poor cat. You know, you lose your esophagus flap starts to deteriorate. The skin on your face gets pulled back more. Mm-hmm. So it looks, for some people, my sister said, look, it looks like I have a facelift. And it does for a little while. Right. Your skin gets more taut, but then it's also, it's too much collagen in your skin. So you would think you'd have more elasticity, but it's just the opposite. And you can lose digits. They have to do surgery sometimes with people because your fingers crack open. There's all different variations of it, though. And what people usually lose their life to is pulmonary hypertension, which is the lungs just give out.
Right.
And that's not unlike COVID or any disease mm-hmm. where they don't have any elasticity and they atrophy.
Yeah, and I feel horrible. I haven't seen Kat in a little while. I moved to a different state. So Kat and I first met each other right after she got diagnosed, and she started that Cure for Cat Foundation. I don't think I mentioned this to you on Twitter, so I've been doing stand-up for about 13 years.
And, well, good.
When I talked to her, I was like, we need to do something about this, because, again, back 13 years ago, it's probably much different even 13 years later than it was back then. The hard part was I was an unknown comedian. She wasn't as well known as she was the beacon of the community that she became. We didn't have anybody come up to this event, and I felt bad for the last 13 years that she fought this, that we couldn't get people out. And seeing her story, and we caught up every few months, turned into years, but because she was so busy with everything and battling this illness, it's crazy to see how the Spokane, Washington community rallied around her all the time. The outpouring of love that has happened. So hopefully this episode helps dedicate to her, and also more for this foundation and this research. What's kind of this next steps for people that can be done to help further this research?
Well, just in her memory, I just want to mention that I got to meet her when I was in Spokane, and she's, her family was lovely. It's just, it's so tragic. So what can be done now is our organization, Scleroderma Research Foundation, is srfcure.org. And we, with our money that we raise, we give it directly to research. They pay the overhead for 5 people in an office in San Francisco, or most people working at home now because of life. Mm-hmm. But life is coming back, so they are going back in the office. And we fund centers of excellence, which would be Johns Hopkins, UCSF, Stanford, and many other places around the world, but a lot in the U.S. where they have research centers and they do test trials on patients. So that's what people can do. If I had it, I would go to Johns Hopkins or UCSF, but Johns Hopkins, I know Dr. Fred Wigley, who's kind of the Obi-Wan Kenobi in my life of scleroderma. I wish my sister could have gone to him. And he has an amazing center with Dr. Laura Hummers and other doctors there. And they have like 3,000 patients, I believe, registered. Wow. And they sign, documents that let them try the newest in techniques. And it's similar, I guess, to cancer cocktails, where they try different things. And they're not as invasive as what they used to do. With my sister, this is 1994, 93, her doctor was kind of a charlatan. I will say at first we believed in him, and he was a rheumatologist, and a lot of rheumatologists are amazing doctors, but that doesn't mean they have expertise in these specific diseases. Right. So you want to go to experts. And then you go to a Johns Hopkins or a UCSF or Stanford, and you get an expert with scleroderma wherever you are. I think there's a place in Houston. It's listed on our website. But they can work with your rheumatologist, because this rheumatologist, my sister believed he had a bit of a God complex, which some doctors have. Mm-hmm. And he just gave her cortisone and prednisone, and then took out her gallbladder and then tortured her. And, she had a bunch of doctors. They just didn't know what to do. It's like a lot of diseases. You look at mental health. They give a lot of people one drug. It doesn't work. They pull the rug out. They try another one. That's something that we all try to avoid. Mm-hmm. And with mental health, it's a conundrum. It's really quite impossible. I've had that. I lost another sister she was schizophrenic and really worked hard to get back and get her life back, but she passed away at 34. So life's hard. Mm-hmm. And you want to, my goal is for scleroderma. We've come so far. We feel like we've crossed the desert, and our chairman of the board, Luke Ebnen, has scleroderma, and we have several board members that have scleroderma, a couple of them who are lovely people, a couple doctors, a producer, an actor. And it's quite beautiful to watch us all work constantly. So what we're doing is we're doing another virtual event. We did one last year during COVID. We went into a studio, full COVID testing, and I had 20 of my comedian friends. John Mayer sang, and Pat Monahan of Train, and it was just Kelly Clarkson sang, and then comedians, everybody, Howie Mandel, Ray Romano, Joel McHale. John Stamos was actually one of the funniest. A lot of people that gave of their time, and we rolled a lot of segments in, and we'll be doing it again October 17th. We'll be doing a live event. And on that last virtual event, we raised $1.2 million.
Wow.
So that's $1 million that goes to research. And then the 0.2, it's probably, I'm just making it up. It's probably, I don't know, maybe 0.1 went to pay for getting it made, having a live broadcast go out. And we're going to do it again in October, because we still don't feel like we want the world to see it. Otherwise, we'll do events in LA, New York, San Francisco. San Francisco's in no shape to have a live event. LA, barely. New York just opened. I was there. So I think that's our part. My part is trying to help these people. And the Scleroderma Research Foundation is the only foundation that deals directly with research, funding research.
Now, because you said that your sister was fighting her battle back in around 93, 94.
Yeah, she was. They did, and I portrayed it in this movie with Dana Delaney starring in it. It was on ABC, and it was called For Hope. Mm-hmm. And they didn't know how to treat it, and they didn't know how to diagnose it. Now they do the under the nail test. They can actually tell from under your fingernail tissue. I don't know how. And other ways, I'm sure there's blood tests now. Mm-hmm. I don't know very much. I'm not a doctor, of course. But my sister, they thought they said it was lupus. They said it was depression. They said it was some autoimmune thing. They don't know what. And then she got diagnosed with scleroderma, and she had to leave being a teacher in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and come and live with our parents in their apartment in California. So it was very, very sad. And she deteriorated very quickly. One year she was at our benefit, and the next year she passed away. So it's a difficult life, and I'm trying to do everything I can, just get it out there, raise money, raise awareness. A lot of people also can get involved. Again, we're srfcure.org, and on Instagram and Twitter, we're at srfcure. And people can get involved as cure advocates, where they can actually do local events. And Kat was part of that, and it is sad that you couldn't raise more money through the comedy benefit, but you know what? Thank you for doing your part. I mean, You did it. You did something wonderful. Those are really hard to pull off and hard to do. So, you should be commended for what you did.
Well, knowing her battle keeps me wanting to help people. That's part of this podcast is shining a light on community, comedians, actors, especially this last year because of how much people have been impacted. You're going on tour this year. If people see you live in person and they want to donate directly to you, can they do that as well? Or would you
No, I don't take people's money. They would just go to Scleroderma Research.org or srfcure.org. They both take you there. And there's a donate button, but it'll also tell you who we are and the scientists and explain it. And we've just completely revamped our website, and it's incredibly current with the best doctors. We have the best scientific advisory board of anyone affiliated with most autoimmune diseases. We're at the top of the food chain, and they're the same advisory board on some of the biggest autoimmune diseases. This is just it's a puzzle, but you cure. There are people in remission from it or get extended life from it. And then someone I care about very much, one of our board members, her mom, we lost her mom, and we tried everything, and it was just all of a sudden. And sometimes it happens because if you get pneumonia, your lungs are so fragile. And, as you saw with Kat, you get very, very thin, and your skin gets tight, and your organs get tight, and they can't function properly.
Right.
So,
have you been able to bring the awareness to your projects recently? Because I know after Full House ended, you went on to a couple other sitcoms. You hosted a game show. Were you able to bring that awareness to that, or were the producers trying to keep things a little more separate?
Well, no, most television shows are entertainment. I didn't do a Scleroderma episode on a sitcom. I made a 2-hour movie that was number one in the ratings for the week, but it was in 1996. Right. So that's a long time ago, right? So I do things where I'll do things like, Cameo, and I'll donate proceeds to the Scleroderma Research Foundation and a couple other places that I care about. So I'm always donating when I can. And as far as raising awareness, it's like coming on your show. Right. And when I do interviews, people bring it up all the time because it's a highly visible thing. When you Google me, it's one of the things you see are all the events. And you see that Ashley and Mary Kate came to all the events, and John Stamos is at all the events, and John Mayer's always at all the, these are people that have done the events. Jeff Garland, Jeff Ross, a lot of people have just always been there. Adam Duritz of Counting Crows 3 times then. Robin Williams did the event 7 times. Wow. So it's people with a big heart. And if you see someone with scleroderma, you kind of, now that you knew Kat, you kind of can recognize it. You see it. And so it's hard to, all you can do is get the word out when you have an opportunity like you've given me here, talking to you about it right now.
Like I said, I appreciate you coming on. I don't think there's any easy way to segue into talking about comedy from that research.
Well, no. And that's what's interesting is when we do these benefits, it's very serious. And then all of a sudden I'll say something irreverent or I'll do an auction, and the auction will be with Jimmy Kimmel, or did it with Andy Cohen. I've done it with Conan, and they've come to the events, and all of a sudden we're doing an auction and we're saying terrible things, funny, terrible, right. Not terrible,
right.
Just more irreverent, more PG-19. And that helps. That it does help diffuse the incredible, painful subject of this that affects so many people.
So I'm going to do my best to segue into talking about Bob Saget, the actor.
You can do this because, us narcissists, we're always ready to go.
I will admit, I was one of the few that didn't really grow up with Full House. Like, that was my sister's thing. That was my friend's thing. Right. I was more of the Boy Meets World era of the 90s. But like I was telling my producer before, I loved every episode of Raising Dad. that was
Oh,
on.
that's really sweet. Thank you.
Season.
It was popular in England, but they only gave us one season. We did 24 episodes, which is a big order because people that made it loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at the WB before it became the CW. And it was Jonathan Katz, brilliant Jonathan Katz, Dr. Katz, who it was really his life, his daughter's at home. And it was also written and exec produced by Norman Steinberg, a great writer who wrote the movie My Favorite Year and also worked on Blazing Saddles with Mel. And so we had the best cast. We had Jerry Adler, who was Hesh on The Sopranos, and my daughters, as hard as it is to believe, were Kat Dennings and Brie Larson. And Megan Good was on the show. And it was a real, and Andy Kindler, hilarious Andy Kindler. I was a teacher and he was a principal. That show could have gone for a long time, but then we wouldn't have Captain America. So, or maybe she would have segued right from Brie is Captain America, right?
Captain Marvel.
Right. But she is, Captain Marvel.
Yes.
Why do I always get them confused? This is why I should just stick to scleroderma. But yeah, and so that means that she would have done Raising Dad for 20 years.
Yeah. Do you think, because obviously they when you read the description of the shows, maybe there's some similarity to Full House. When you watch the shows, they're two completely different shows.
Absolutely. And the attitude is different. I mean, I was more human. Full House was made for younger people. It was made for that audience. And that's why I loved doing it. I don't mind. People go, "Whoa, how could you do that?" I'm an actor.
Yeah.
How does anybody do anything if they're an actor? But I don't think 14-year-olds understand what acting is. So they can't realize that you're playing a part. And it doesn't mean that you're a dirty bastard when you're not playing the part. It just means my stand-up is more I just finished doing Dave Chappelle summer camp. So fitting in and being comfortable with Dave and with the other comedians that are there and all the people that have done it is how I am. It's what I'm like. I'm a comedian also. I'm also a director. We're waiting to get word on finishing financing to go make this movie. And I just acted in another movie in the Cayman Islands during COVID where I definitely don't play Danny Tanner. So when people go, "Well, I don't understand. How could he not be?" They think you're a two-dimensional person in real life. But I love playing that character. That's why I was happy to do it again on Fuller House, And when we're done right now, I'm actually I'm doing my podcast and talking with Andrea Barber, who was Kimmy Gibbler.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm close with all of them.
Are you still close with Kat and Brie? Do you still communicate, or is that a little bit harder since that show didn't
Kat
last?
and I run into each other. Brie, I saw her when she was like 16 or 17. I bumped into her, didn't recognize her, and she looked adorable, but I didn't realize it was that cute little Brie because she was 16, 17, and she's so super talented. She was super talented when she was little, She was amazing. She was so good on the show and such a big heart. Such a sweetheart and very idealistic person. And Kat was also incredibly sweet. And I knew both their parents and, it was interesting. It was, and when I bump into Kat, it's always sweet and always nice. It's weird that Ashley, Mary Kate and Kat and one of my dearest friends, kid, all have the same birthday. So I go crazy on that day.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
It was 2 weeks ago. Or last week. I don't remember.
June birthdays are the best. Mine was the 3rd. Narcissism.
There you go. So, happy birthday.
Thank you. I also want to talk a bit about Surviving Suburbia because I don't know how you're
still trying to reinvent me as a father, right?
That one I still really enjoyed. I remember it aired the year after I left for college, and it was one of those first times I would call my folks on the phone. This was 2008, and we would kind of talk about it every week. And I don't know because it was originally supposed to be on the CW, correct? And then they moved it to ABC.
No, yeah, you're right. It was going to be on the CW, and then a great company, MRC, run by two very nice people. That are very successful. They bring you Ted 1 and Ted 2 and a lot of big movies. They're really smart. And they, Asif and Modi, and they believed in the show and ABC believed in it. and then kept moving it around. And then the head of ABC at that time was a guy, Steve McPherson, who said to me, kind of said, if you do Dancing with the Stars, I'll renew the show, without saying it. And I sent him x-rays of my knees and said, I can't dance, and I can't go on Dancing with the Stars. And I just didn't want to. And that's not what I do. And I didn't. I did go on Masked Singer because I got to sing, because it was COVID and I couldn't perform for a year. So I put on a furry outfit and I was Squiggly Monster, and I would do it again if I was trapped in the house for a year. You could hit me with a fungo bat. I don't care. But this gentleman, the head of the network, didn't pick the show up, and we were right on the bubble. And it was a huge disappointment for everybody involved. Incredibly nice producers. And you had Cynthia really as the wife.
Cynthia is one of the funniest female
Cynthia
actors.
Stevenson is fantastic. And Jared was my kid, and cute little G Cornelius. It was just really a nice combination. And we did some touchy topics. We did a gun show that was pretty interesting, and the writers were very good. Danny Zucker wrote on the show. Kevin Abbott created the show, and he was from the Roseanne show originally. And what a wonderful guy, and what a great writer. And we had every element. And I think we all took it pretty hard. You know, sometimes you really love something. And I was going like, this should go for a long time, because it had, I don't know. I can't figure it out anymore. You just do what you do. I never stop working.
Right.
I never do. I'm literally right now, I want to do a new special. So I'm out on tour. I started touring 6 weeks ago. I opened up the Hard Rock at Atlantic City. And it was supposed to be, it's a 7,000 seat venue, but it was supposed to be under 1,000 people. But I don't think Atlantic City cared that much. There's no CDC guard. But I've been on tour ever since. I'm going to Pittsburgh any minute. And everything sells out. Doing Dave Chappelle's summer camp for 4 nights. And I also did the end when it shut down. I just saw Dave's documentary at Radio City Music Hall. The Dave opened that night, and I got to spend time with him. And that movie was about doing comedy during COVID and how you can do it. And Dave's one of the few people on the earth that could have done it.
Right.
And he made something happen. And I was fortunate to be part of it and get to perform in a cornfield, doing stand-up, trying to figure out where the hell we are. And people should see this documentary. Right now it's untitled, but I assume it'll be called Summer Camp, or maybe it'll have a harsher word in the title just so it makes more sense.
Was that the thing where you were on like truck beds doing comedy? Is that No,
those are outdoor events. This was, you're on if you look on my Instagram, if you look on, just Google Dave Chappelle Summer Camp, and it's just right there. It's just, everybody went and did it. Chris Rock came in, Bill Burr, David Letterman, Bill Murray closed it.
Wow.
When they just went back. I got to go back because I was the last person. I only got to do one show when they shut it down for COVID. Gotcha. But it's really about Donnell Rawlings and Michelle Wolf and Mo Amir and these people that really spent their whole time there with Dave. And Dave is one of a kind. He's just one of a kind. And Trevor Noah went in. I mean, it was a wonderful list of comedians. Ali Wong, Ronnie Chang, a ton of people. And I was so excited to go in and do it and play. And that's what stand-up is supposed to be.
Exactly.
So now I'm out touring, doing long shows in clubs mainly because theaters aren't up to capacity yet. And they're hard to book without notice. You got to have at least a 4-month advance to tell them you're coming. But with a club, like when I was in New York, it was my daughter's engagement party. So I said, I want to work somewhere. So I ended up at one of the Levity Live clubs in Nyack, New York. And Michael Che came down because I'd had him on my podcast, and he did a set and was just wonderful. He also went to Dave Chappelle Summer Camp. And it's just getting out and doing it. So when I'm performing now, it means more to me than it's meant literally since 1995. I don't think it's meant as much to me because I mean, as you said, when those shows stopped, I did show after show, but I also was directing movies for like 4 years. I didn't even want to be on camera because I'd seen enough of myself on the video show, America's Funniest Home Videos and Full House. It's enough of that. So, and then I toured, and then I directed, and then I acted. So, you know, I literally never stop acting or stop working.
You're busy.
I'm stupidly busy. I don't understand it.
Well, hopefully
I would. That's why people go, how can you be 65? It's because I never stop working.
Hopefully we can get you out to Boise, Idaho sometime. I know people here would love to see
I've been to Idaho, and I might have been to Boise. I don't know. I can't remember.
It's booming. We don't have a club anymore. Our club shut down, but we have a few venues here. But
if you got a venue, if you got a theater, then and I got a plane, I'll go.
I will let them know. I'll show them this clip, and I'll let them know. We're going to segue into Travis come online here. Travis gets to ask. Travis has never done podcasts before. He's my producer.
Hey, Travis.
I gave him a microphone, and now we try to do a number that has a T in it since his name is Travis, and then we're going to the pop quiz. So we're going to give 2 questions with Travis for Bob Saget.
Alrighty. So my first question was just how do you kind of divide your time between like acting and the stand-up and everything you still do along with the foundation? Like, is it kind of 50-50, or how exactly do you divide your time between the two?
Well, it's interesting. When I'm acting, it's because I got a part. It's because I've created a part. I directed a movie a couple of years ago. I directed it and acted in it, and that's not an easy thing to do. And you don't do anything else. That's all you do. I mean, you spend months prepping it, and you do it, and you can't go do stand up. You can't do anything. You just try to know your lines and not bump into everything, which they tell you not to do. And then even the thing I did in the Cayman Islands, I did podcasts because I've just gone through my 100th episode of a thing called Bob Saget's Here for You. And so now I'm enjoying that a lot. Just had Adam Duritz from Counting Crows, and the week before Michael Che. And it's just a bunch of different people that I'm interested in, that I know some of them and some I don't. And it's really been cool. So that I put time into. When I'm doing something, I do it 1,000%. I give it my whole heart. But when I'm out doing stand up now, I'm rolling jokes all the time in my head. I mean, comedians have trouble sleeping. You know, it's not like, I'm not doing an acting part, so I'm going to sit at home. And the charity is ongoing constantly. The emails are constant. I had a board meeting yesterday, had a board meeting the day before. So we just it's all Zooms now. So we just hit into the Zooms. We're going to do a live board meeting, getting ready for our next big event. That's ongoing. So I'll be just, a lot of it is opinions on emails. Do you like this? Do you like that? We're going to, what do you think of this? We want to give our money to here. So it's a board. It's the whole board working on that. But as far as stand-up goes, I'm living it. So you promote your stand-up that you're going to be somewhere. You go on the local TV shows and radio, but mainly it's, knowing what I want to talk about. And I'm going with my buddy Mike Young to as many dates as possible. And then my agent went, who's open? Texas is open. Florida's open. That's who was open last month. So I was in Texas, in Houston, and it was full capacity, and everybody had a gun, and nobody cared. And yeah, so yeah, I do whatever if you're directing something or acting in something, that's all you do. With stand-up, you can, before a show, I stop everything else. I have to have a clear head and go over my material and go over what I'm going to do, and just you have to be disciplined about it. I've done theater a bunch too, like on Broadway. And when you do that, that's all you do. You could try other stuff, maybe an interview show or something, but pretty much you sleep, you get up, you exercise, you learn your lines again, and then do the best performance you can do. So it's a never ending thing that I love doing. So I do, like, I always say I do 5 or 6 things, none of them well.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah.
Sorry, it was such a long answer.
Oh, no, that was good. That was perfect. And then my next question was, you kind of briefly touched on, you said there's a couple other foundations and causes and stuff that you like to donate and contribute to. Obviously, yours is like the biggest one, but what are some other things you kind of donate, contribute, and kind of look at?
During this COVID time, it was a lot of food banks. So it was food banks, different ones all over the country, American Red Cross, and I also give to other countries that are going through hard times. So it's pretty much helping children is what I try to do, and helping people that have no food. So
Yeah, cool.
That was 2 questions with Travis. We're going to segue right into his other duties. We have a team of independent fact checkers for this pop quiz.
okay.
So far in the 15, 16 weeks we've done this, everybody's gotten 100%. But the caveat is if you miss a question, I then become the host of America's Funniest Home Videos. I know it's...
Oh, you're gonna have to talk to Alfonso and Binda Bona. I have nothing to do with it.
I'm gonna walk in and be like, Bob Saget lost my pop quiz. Let's do this. So it's 3 rapid fire questions, and I asked most stand-up comedians the same first one, and people always take a lot longer to think about it.
Cool. Hit me up.
Question number 1: where and when was your first time performing stand-up comedy? You can do year. Some people remember the date specifically, but if you remember year and location.
Well, there's 2 answers to it, so I'm right on both of them, no matter what you say. The first time I ever did, because you're just going from what you read online, I can tell you what actually happened.
Oh, we have fact checkers, Bob.
There are no facts. The only people know what the facts are these days, because Wikipedia is all wrong. They had my parents' names wrong for 10 years.
That's funny.
So the first time I was 17. I was 17. So when I was 17, I don't know what year that was. I have no idea. Let's see. It was 74. I was around 74, 73, 74. So I made a movie called Beach Blanket Blintzes, an 8mm movie, and I spoke before the movie. The movie was a piece of garbage, but I did like 10 minutes, and it was all ad lib, and I got laughs. And they thought the movie was going to be good, about a 50-foot blintz that went to the top of the Empire State Building and turned people into sour cream.
Oh.
And then, so the first time I did it in a club anywhere was at a club in Philadelphia called Grandma Minnie's, and I won a radio contest for WMMR Radio, and I won $500 for singing a comedy song called Bondage, and it was about bondage. So that was my first time, and then I would take a train to New York and do stand up there, and wait in line 12 hours at the Improv or at Catch a Rising Star, clubs that don't exist there now. And so that was the very beginning.
Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct.
I don't know if you can hear the applause.
Okay, good.
All right.
What did you have? What crazy answer did you have?
Yeah, Travis, what answer did you have?
I'm not going to release where I got my intel from necessarily. But
What is
correct.
it though? Because everybody's full of crap. What is it? Where does it? What did yours say?
So the pop quiz is there's actually no fact checkers. I'm the fact checker.
Wow, you're giving the secret juice right now with Bob Saget.
Oh, in other words, I give the answer, I get it right,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then there is no other answer.
The only thing though is you're the first guest that's like truly looked into it. Like everyone else is just kind of like, oh, like, but you're like, no, where'd you get the information from? Like I need answers here.
Bob's found out our bit, and now I can never do this
Oh
again.
no, I like this bit because that means the guest is always right.
Exactly.
That's smart.
It's to fill your narcissistic.
Oh, it's there.
Question number 2 is what is the line people ask you to repeat the most?
Oh, that's a rough one. I guess the clean version is "Wake Up, San Francisco." That's the clean version.
If you want to do the dirty version, we can, or we can give you the round of applause.
Well, one of them is from the movie Half Baked, when I stood up and Dave Chappelle was there. That's another one. And then another one is Entourage, when I came out on there. So those 3 probably. But then people yell out all kinds of stuff at me. They also yell out, there was that, it's a real affliction, but it was a guy making fun of it. And he's no longer with us, but it was Tourette's guy just yelling my name out.
Yep.
But that's just people yelling that at me, my own name as an exclamatory.
Right.
So there's like 4 or 5 buzzwords out there.
That's actually the when I told people that I was going to interview for this podcast for Scleroderma Research, everybody mentioned the Tourette's guy, which I had never heard of that before.
It's one of those 5 things. I live in this Big Bird suit that I'm in.
that correct, Travis? Yes, it is.
Thanks, Travis.
All right, rapid fire for the third question, because I know we are slowly running out of time. What is the best feel-good story you got from your years of research?
The best what?
Feel-good story that's come out of all your scleroderma research.
Oh, the best feel-good story. Oh, my. Well, it just recently happened. Yeah, it's interesting that you bring it up. There's a little girl. She's 10 years old, and she has scleroderma. And she's so sweet. And I got to meet her and her family. And they won something online where they got to talk to us. And it was John Stamos and myself doing a Zoom with them.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a real fighter. And I guess the feel good about it is just her positive attitude, and personally, how much it meant to her, how much talking to me meant so much to her. It's just, it just takes my breath away. So I would say just when a young person has difficulty, I've experienced that a few times in my life. Years ago, there was a friends of mine whose son had a brain tumor, and he was passing away at UCLA, but he loved America's Funniest Home Videos. So this is a long time ago. And so I used to bring VHS cassette tapes of America's Funniest Home Videos for him to watch, and we would watch them together. And I hated watching myself, but it brought him so much joy. I think just the fact that that you're able to do a career that brings joy to people and puts a smile on their face and helps take them out of whatever pain they're in. That's why I love being a comedian. Mm-hmm. I'm not there to start a fight. I'm there to let people all share a fun experience together.
That's amazing. Of course, you got 100%. I always like to, since you
this
figured
thing
this
is
out,
rigged.
I always like to have the guest ask me a couple of questions just to get to know me a little bit better for the last 15 weeks, and then we'll wrap things up if you have one.
All right. What's made you want to become a comedian?
I always loved humor. I always thought that humor was the best medicine. I was kind of an outcast in high school. So I guess kind of like you, my first performance was in high school. I was 17 years old in front of 1,000 people. So I peaked at 17. But just that, how people can take break out of everything horrible going on. Cause I was a 9/11 kid, I was in 7th grade when 9/11 happened and grew up with all that. And the fact that comedy can give you an escape for a few minutes is the reason I started. Now it's kind of what Jimmy Fallon did, is he was able to take that and move it into kind of this format. I've been able to talk to a lot of amazing musicians and comedians like I talked about through this last year, and to give them a voice and a platform to kind of talk about what matters to them is really the end goal here now. So I kind of use stand-up to kind of help elevate this to another level.
That's a nice answer. That's correct. You got that right. Who's your favorite member of your family and why?
Oh, that's horrible. My dad knows I'm adopted. My parents adopted me from South Korea when I was 4.5 months, but I'm definitely a mama's boy. She's done a lot. She went with me when I auditioned for America's Got Talent back when I shouldn't have done it. I probably still shouldn't do it now. I was like year 3 into comedy, 2009, going to America's Got Talent. She sat with me for 13 hours just for me to get that no. But both
you got it. You know what they say, you got to hear no as quickly as possible. And it's got to be a hard no. Mm-hmm. They're always telling you got to fail big.
Right.
The way to success is just keep working and being noticeable. Mm-hmm. Because you love doing it.
Yep. And I still love it. I love making people laugh, but this is what I really love more. So Bob, I want you to quickly plug the websites and the foundations again. I want to thank you for coming out.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's Sclerodermaresearch.org, but that's hard to spell because it's sclero, mm-hmm. SCLERO, and then derma, DERMA, which means hard skin. It's easier it's Latin, of course. It's easier to just go srfcure.org. And it's a very wonderful organization. It means the world to me.
And for tickets for your shows, just bobsaget.com or find you on Twitter.
Exactly. You can all things me. And I'm rebuilding my website, which is very exciting. I know it'll have pictures of you on it. And and just maybe we're going to change our motto to speak and be heard. I think that's a good idea. But yeah, bobsaget.com has tickets for my whole tour. And I'm on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever the hell. They're checking our algorithms and robbing us of our data. I'm on it.
Perfect. Well, Bob, thank you so much for coming out again. This has been a very special episode of Hey, What's Up, the podcast. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for having me. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Hey, What's Up podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, give a 5-star review. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Jared Munson. Also, don't forget to follow Speak Boise as well. Thanks, you guys. We will see you again next week.